glad to have you. You're a comedian?
I am. I would consider myself a comedian.
How long you been doing comedy for?
3 years.
Okay, so you're literally like 3 years since the first time you got on stage?
Yeah, under 3 years. I'm in my third year.
Now, last time we had somebody in here that was a comic, and he told me he'd been doing it for 3 years. I'm like, okay, so you're not really a comic yet. And he was very defensive of that. But in my defense,
I was very defensive.
Yes, you were very, and rightfully so. You know what I mean? Because I know but yes, you are, because you're on that path. But usually what happens is those first couple years you're doing it like what? Like once you do it once, and then you do it a month later, and then you do it a couple times in a week, and then you don't do it again for 3 months, and then somewhere around the 2-3 year mark, you sort of figure out if you're going to do it or not. Yeah. And then you start to get a gig here or a gig there, but you still have a job. Blah, blah. And then by the time you've done it 6 years, you start telling people, when they say how long you've been doing it, you start telling people 3 years, right? Because you disregard those, at least for me, right. It's like you throw those away. Because
I can throw those away?
You were just, what?
I can throw them away?
That's what I do.
So I'm coming up on my 11 years. In September will be 11 years.
I don't think you count the very first time you got on stage, unless you got to it from there. You know what I mean? Like, that's
what do you mean got to it from there?
Because you kind of, I think I'm just going to explain my experience. Like I feel, and from other comics too, I feel like you start off thinking it's easier than it is, right. And you think, I'm funny. I'm funnier than that guy on television. I'm going to do it, and then you just think all I got to do is go be on stage a couple times, and then the Tonight Show or Comedy Central, they're going to be like, this motherfucker, he's what we've been looking for.
Absolutely,
right? And you don't understand why they're not, and then you kind of do it here and there, and then you realize it's like. You realize, oh shit, this is a thing I got to work at, and I got to write jokes. I can't just go on stage and be funny. I can't rely on things. You start to learn. I got to work at this. I got to start networking. I got to learn how to do comedy.
So you're not a comedian until you start realizing that stuff?
That's what I think.
I'm not a comedian yet.
I think you're just well. I think you're just doing a hobby here and there. You know what I mean? It's like, I went and played basketball. You're not a basketball player. You went and played basketball today. You know what I mean?
So are you only a basketball player if you are in the NBA?
No.
It's a very capitalist view.
No, but until you're working at it and getting some understanding of like, there's a different level to once you figure out this is what I'm going to do and this is what this is.
I had an understanding of it, I think, before I started.
Okay, well then
because I was such a fan and a study of it. Like I spent so much time thinking about it, and.
But that's why I said I'm going from my experience and what I think of. Yeah. I think most people sort of get in and flounder around for a little bit, and then they lock in and be like, I'm going to do this, I
think it's fair for you to say that for you to have that opinion that of somebody who hasn't been doing it as long. For one, I'm not, because I can see how somebody says, if you don't pay your bills doing something, you're not it. Like, I'm a laser operator by trade.
What do you mean? What is it?
If you don't pay your bills by doing something, then you're not it.
No, you're a laser operator?
Yeah, I'm a laser operator by trade.
What does that mean?
I operate a laser.
For what? What do you cut with lasers?
Steel, metal, wood.
Wood, whatever.
Could you turn it?
No, I can't turn it. It won't operate unless it's like in a safe position. It shouldn't anyway. It probably would come on, but I'm not gonna do that because
would you want to, like, as opposed to owning a gun to defend your house, would you rather have a laser?
No, that's a lot.
A laser you could control.
Why can't we
hold still?
Why don't I have the right to bear lasers?
I think lasers might be more dangerous than
guns. A laser is more dangerous because if it can penetrate, once it penetrates a person, it's not going to stop penetrating. You're not going to just hit. A bullet might stop after a body.
There's no stray lasers. Yeah, those go forever.
You cut that laser on, you kill 80 people.
Would it fuck somebody up like no matter the distance that the light, or will it?
I'm not sure because it's fucking up. Like it's like right here on the steel. So
you don't know how far it goes.
Yeah. I don't know.
I love how distracted we just got from
but you
just can't say I'm a laser operator. What is that? Like, I don't know. Are you shooting lasers?
I mean, but I'm a comedian by nature. It's like you said. I got it. I was like, I want to be a comedian because, of course, I want to be Eddie Murphy. I want to be
Eddie Murphy. We were just talking about.
I want to be Dave Chappelle. I want to be George Carlin. I want to be all those things. And I'm gonna go up here and comedy's gonna see me, and all these people suck. And then you go in there for the first time, and everybody's just fucking. Boom, boom, boom. Everybody is better than the people you see on TV. random people who's gonna watch this episode if we're rolling. Everybody in a comedy club, when you see it live, is better than the people you see on TV.
Why do you think that is?
Because it's live. Comedy is better live. It's the one medium that I can for sure say that when I've seen it, like as a fan, it's like, oh yeah, this is way better than it would be on TV. Like it's like sitting in a building.
Doesn't translate.
Yeah, it doesn't translate.
So
like
if I was you, were
like
watching
TV.
that exact show where you say everybody's great on television,
It might not be as funny.
it definitely wouldn't be as funny.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's not. The energy's not in.
Yeah.
in
I mean, I
In
agree
your
with you.
living room.
I just wanted to hear you say all that, to be honest, because I think
Yeah.
that's cool that you recognize that already as a.
I mean, yeah.
You know,
I mean, because I listen
I
to
don't
my.
think most people realize that.
I
no,
listen
I
to
think
my
nobody
stuff.
realizes it. I always say, if we were to take a couple cameras and go downtown right now and stop 100 people, and be like, hey, name every form. Take your time. Name every form of art that you can think of. I think like 98 of them would never say comedy with all the time in the world, and the two people who did say comedy would be on their way to an open mic. You know what I mean? I just don't think people consider it an art form, and it's so difficult to do, and it is for
So
sure.
would you consider it like if you were, let's say you're an artist, right, and you drew.
See, you say artist, and you go to painter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but that's what I mean. Like
Sure.
as far as a painter, would you say, I'm a painter? I've been a painter for 6 years, or would you be like, all right, I've been a painter for or would you count from like the first time you picked up a brush, or would you count from when you sort of figured out how to
I would
paint?
include that time. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think in my first couple years I would walk around and be like, I'm a fucking comedian.
Right.
I think there was a point where I became comfortable with it, but I do think when I started I was, because I did end up where I ended up. I don't know if I knew I was a comedian until I actually was.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
right.
for instance, like I follow you on Facebook, right? We're Facebook friends. I know your son plays baseball. Is he a baseball player?
No, I'm a student athlete.
Oh.
Technically, because he's not
Yeah.
getting paid.
All right.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
student athlete. All right. Okay. So you're not a professional baseball
Yeah.
player, but you're a baseball player.
Yeah.
In the school, you are a baseball player, right? So, I'm not a professional comedian.
Right.
Yeah, there is a distinction, right?
That's
Up
you're right.
and
That's not
up
really
and
fair. That's
coming.
not fair to me, right? That's
Right.
not
No,
fair.
I mean-
I just think of like I don't know. I think of it as like an open micer
Yeah.
and then a comedian. Like it takes a little while. It's like where you intern at it and then you are. But I guess it's not. It's you're right. It's really sort of, if I see I'm a comedian, like that, you have to see yourself as that in order to become it. So you have to believe it in yourself. So it's really, yeah.
I think the definitions are open to interpretation. I do think, though, that there has been a lot of change just in the time that I've been in it. And I grew up listening to dudes like you talk, and I don't mean dudes like you pieces of shit. I mean older good comics. Like every chance I got to listen to comedians talk, I was interested. That's all. The only people I wanted to hear talk. I didn't give a fuck about anybody else. And I did have a little bit of that coming in, where it was like, get down back in your fucking hole. You're not a comedian until you're a fucking comedian and all that. And now I just think it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I don't mean it to.
No, I understand.
To get down in your hole. I mean it as like. Yeah, you have. There's
agree.
something to the respect and the level of like what it takes to do this. It takes
Pay
some
your
years of
dues, I guess.
interning, you know.
I really think stand-up comedy is one of the last real meritocracies. Like, I think you have to earn what you are. I think there are other places where things are, I don't know, given to people or whatever, and you can't be good without getting good in comedy. But I do think that even bad comedians are comedians.
Yeah, and I think people don't give you things if you're not good, if they don't think you're deserving of them. Like
Right.
so, and I feel like I'm a comedian because I do comedy.
Because there is
Respect- you get
suffering
respect
involved.
from people that are
Yes, from strangers.
Right.
You know, from
right.
people who don't know me at all, who I've never seen before. Hey, great set. Hey, good job. You know, and and I got paid to do it.
So
Yeah.
when I ask you what you do, you say I'm a comedian before you say what your job. Like you're a comedian.
I'm a
what
comedian
you,
first.
and then you have a job.
Yeah, and then I got a job.
Okay.
You know, so if I lose
Yeah.
that job, I'm going to get another job that lets me be a comedian.
I love that.
Like,
That's great. Yeah.
there's no other way. I won't be happy any other way.
Right. It's weird because right now I'm writing on a TV show, and it's like, you think, oh, that's what I want to do, you know.
Yeah.
But now I'm in there.
Have you watched that yet?
Yeah, I love it. I love the show.
But now I'm in there doing it. I'm like, it's like, oh my God, this is so boring. I want to be a comedian. Like,
Yeah.
like it's fun to write jokes and stuff and be like, and be in there, but it's just a whole day of having a job as opposed to like, it's like I feel like it's enjoyable and it gives me, but it's also, I can't be what I am.
Noah McDonald talks about that when he was talking about writing on the Roseanne show for the first time. He was like, I pitched all these jokes, joke, and then they didn't use any of them, and then I read the script and I was like, this is gonna flop. These jokes aren't good, because he's looking at it from a stand-up perspective. And then he was just like, I'm in the writer's room, and all I could think is, I want to take these jokes on stage and prove that they can work. It was interesting. It was on Comedians in Cars. It was him and Seinfeld, and he was talking. I've heard you have the same conversations. It's really interesting, the comedian's mind in a writer's room.
Right.
So-
Like Pat said something the other day to like one of the producer types or whatever. I was pitching a joke and she happened to be, and she said, didn't catch the first part of it because that was the compliment, where she said, where it was like, man, he never stops pitching jokes. He's always got a joke, you know, and the
That's
girl,
what you're hired for.
yeah, and the girl was like, oh yeah, he always has good joke. And she said, yeah, he's great at this. He's terrible in the room, but he's like, and they're like, wait, you didn't need to, you didn't need to say that.
Yeah, you didn't have to say
you
that.
know,
You didn't have to be. Yeah, you didn't have to tell us how you feel.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
and it's a little, you know, that writing a story and writing a show, that's different than writing jokes.
Before
And
you
I've
got-
trained, and I could be good at it, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Just
But
spending that same amount
it's
of time.
about putting in that time and effort into that as opposed to.
How would you
stand-up.
have felt 5 years ago if you could travel back in time, grab younger Tom Simmons, and be like, dude, in 5 years you can be writing on a TV show? Would you have been?
Oh,
Pretty
I've been
excited?
thrilled by that.
It's crazy. And then
I still am thrilled by it. I
Yeah.
feel very thankful of it, but I also recognize what he's talking about. Like, that's a job
Yeah.
that I'm doing that's gonna allow me to be home for a month and a half and go watch him play his last year of travel
Yeah.
ball and baseball, and then to be able to dictate a little bit. Like when I like working cruise ship,
Does
like,
stand-up not
it
feel like a
allows
job?
me to be a comedian. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
what. That's,
does stand up not feel like a job to you?
no.
Because yeah, right. It's crazy, but it is. It's like it's so much fucking work. It is. We were just talking about how difficult it is. It is a job, right? But when you do the thing you enjoy, it doesn't feel like work. Like I tell people I haven't had a job in 10 years, and I've had like a really difficult one.
the work
Yeah.
is the travel, and the work is the being away. Like, and you know, like
To me, the work is the writing.
like me and him had a discussion where I recognized I was having to write an episode this season for the for the season 3 or whatever of the show, and something happens in me where when I get that insecure and fear, like of am I going to be able to do this, or that pressure, like I don't even really feel it, but I'm starting to recognize how I start to react and treat people around me. It almost is like I'm trying to create turmoil
Right.
that
Yeah.
allows me to stay away from sitting down and doing the work. You know what I mean? So my mind's, and I ended up getting on him about something like you're supposed to, because his injured arm, and it's like I was hassling him about not doing the work correctly. He told me you were going to do this and you didn't because you went to the lake instead. So you said you were going to do it tomorrow and then you didn't do it then. You got to not, blah, blah, blah. And I'm laying into him about not doing the work to get back. And I get this text back from him just lambasting me, like basically telling me, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm here. You're not here. That's how you don't know if I'm doing work because you're not here. And I was like, oh. It's like I'm
Didn't have to say that last part.
yeah. I mean, yeah, and I'm glad that you stood up for yourself and called me out. But it's like it was a little like, oh, well, I'm not there because blah blah blah, you know. And then it's like, then it's, you know.
Well, honestly, Tom, that's good to know that. But I think because every comedian, not every, but a lot of comedians would love to write on a TV show, and it's good to know that feels like an actual job. Like I mean, because you are restrained, and you have to do have to make like, I mean, because it's a Miss Pat show, and you are. A silver-haired white male, Caucasian male writing for a black show. So I'm sure you got to think really hard, about what's appropriate for you to say. What's the joke? What's the joke that's gonna make it on there for time every time?
Yeah, that's one of my problems is I don't think through that. I just say it. I don't really think about like.
That's what I love about you. The joke wins every time.
Yeah, I just say, and that I do a good job now of not pitching specific words or using language the way some of it gets used. But I will. I mean, sometimes it's like I literally just am hearing the flow of the thing, and it's like she should say blah 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 instead of blah 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 blah, and it's like but I. Yes. So, but yeah, it's what's been interesting is to see that. Like, sometimes I'll pitch a joke, and it'll be like stone face, and then if somebody else pitches it, it gets a laugh and goes in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
you need a proxy. You take EB with you. You just be like, EB, you pitch this for me.
And it really frustrated me season 1 because it's the first time I've dealt with it. Like I've dealt with like, oh my God, this is because I'm. Just like you just said.
Yeah.
And you don't
Wear
have any of the
EB's hat.
structure of how it works at that point.
Wear EB's hat, and EB will be in your hat. It'll be like a ratatouille.
Dude, when he walked in wearing that hat, I was like, literally like, fuck, I want one of those. Like, haven't I been saying I want a bucket hat? I
had one of those that was Angora, like the white Angora.
Oh,
I
yeah.
fucking love wearing that shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I wore that into my 30s. It was a bad choice.
That was a
But
nice
yeah,
hat.
it is getting up and being in a place where you're supposed to be and dealing with other personalities and dealing with this joke's funny and like this, like I think this joke's hacky and we shouldn't do that and but it's not my show, so it's just my job is to pitch jokes,
Yeah.
And thankfully, Miss Pat doesn't care what color of the mouth the joke comes out of if it makes her laugh.
I mean, that's why you're there. You
And
got chosen because you're
Yeah.
the right guy to
Right.
do that shit, and there's value in having you there.
And I'm telling you, when I started seeing your name in the credits, the show got better. And I'm not just saying that
Yeah,
because
you
I'm
did
sitting
tell me
here.
that not that long ago.
But like, it was a noticeable. I was like, I don't know. The time I started writing on the show because I knew you before I saw you at the Idiot Box go up, and I was aware that you were writing on the show. But the first couple episodes, I was like, I'm gonna get this thing out. 2 more episodes, boy, and I'm like, I ain't gonna make it. And then that 3rd episode, it picked up, and I was like, all right. I guess it was when Junebug started.
Right, yeah, when his friends use the N-word or whatever.
I don't know. His character just like started. It just came to life.
Yeah, it's interesting. His character, like on the 2nd and 3rd season too, they've all at different times been my favorite character.
Okay.
It's so interesting, especially the older boy.
You're aware like the 2nd and 3rd season haven't dropped that well. We haven't seen.
Yeah,
any
we
of that.
haven't. I shouldn't even be saying what the episode were because they're very. But yeah,
Yeah.
Have you
But-
signed any paperwork?
probably.
I was just.
My whole career. Has
I was
been
just
like,
letting
hey,
you know as a
sign this
fan, as a
NDA.
fan.
I'm like, sure, blah blah blah. Hey, guess what I'm doing? You know what I mean? Like I don't. It's just like.
Yeah, you don't run into that. Nobody even knows you do anything. You never
Yes,
tell anybody
yes.
anything.
Yeah.
Nobody
You're-
gives a
you,
shit.
you,
Self-promotion.
you've stuck to your NDAs just by not promoting your shit.
Yes.
Tom, do you ever sign an NDA? Probably.
Yeah.
For what?
I can't
don't
talk
know.
about it.
But I guess the goal is for you to get your own show where you're the head, like where it's Tom Simmons show, and
Is that the goal?
wouldn't that be like just doing comedy? Because now it's your shit. Now you're running your jokes.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna run my jokes. You know what I mean? I'm gonna run my jokes. Now if they don't work,
Yeah.
I won't run them again. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Well,
run
you
'em.
got to run them again because it might have just been you fucked up and told them wrong. You know what I mean?
If I really believe in them, yeah, sure. But if it's a new one, I'm like, oh, it's not there. I'm gonna have to come back there in a couple of years. And I'm gonna
Yeah.
run
Do you ever do that where you go
wanna get my-
back to your
wanna get my
notebook and
skill
you
up.
try it again
Oh,
later?
I'm
when you're
doing.
back in
I'm
the
doing
meeting?
one of my first jokes I've ever wrote. I did it this past weekend and like spun the vault door and it just opened up on me. It was always a fine joke, but I could never really figure it out. And I had 2 tags and a new punch to it, and I was like, holy shit! And as I tell people this all the time. It's like in Kill Bill, Hattori Hanzo makes these incredible swords. And when the bride gets there, she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing. She gets tortured and trains for a year, and then she's a samurai. And it's like the sword never changed. She just got better at using it. And so those jokes, there was something to them. I just had no idea how to tell them.
Right.
Yeah.
the premise to me, those premises that keep coming up, and those are gold.
Yeah.
Like the joke is there. You just got to find the joke.
How do you use it? Yeah.
So then, and like it used to bug the crap out of me. I had a buddy that would go in. I'd give him shit. I like premise shopping. You know what I mean? Like you sort of, you're not stealing jokes, but you're like, that guy's premise. Like, you know, like you can't. That's the premise is the hard part.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's those are the jokes I get the most jealous of when I hear somebody tell a joke, and I know it was there for everybody, and it was on the ground, and they decided to bend down and pick it up. I walked past it. Everybody in the world walked past it.
Yeah.
And then when they fucking do it, I'm like, God damn it! Just how the fuck did they find the thing in that? And they, you know, I know there are things I think of every day, and I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's probably something. I never say it out loud.
Yeah, I'm not
and
gonna
then
lie.
I hear it, and it makes me angry.
Yeah.
I started getting jealous of civilians on Facebook when they say something funny.
Yeah.
When they like have a funny Facebook post, I'm like, you didn't even need that. You should have just DM'd me that one. Let me have that traffic. That was good content, right?
You got a 401k, man. Come on, give me this.
Right, yeah.
What's the oldest joke you still do, Tom?
It depends. Like when I won't do it in almost any show, but if I'm like on, again, working a cruise ship when you got to do 5 different shows, 5 different half hours, whatever, it's
Right.
like you use everything. So I'd say the oldest one is the Yale Hat Joke.
What is it? How does that go?
I used to wear a Yale hat. My sister gave me for Christmas one year, right? And people you'd be amazed how people make assumptions and say dumb shit like, "Oh, Yale hat. Did you go to Yale?" "Yeah, I went to Yale. Here's your pizza." Got my degree in pizza delivery at Yale. So that joke I've told since
Gotcha.
almost since maybe 3 years in.
Nice.
You know, and that's another joke that ended up being like you write and then years later somebody else is doing a version. You know, like because it's just comedy. You know, like you say, you notice that little thing first.
Yeah.
You know, but the Hedberg ended up having a sweatshirt joke that was sort of like that.
Oh yeah.
You know, like that sort of premise. Like I'm wearing the shirt, I didn't go there. You know.
You got to see him a bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I
When you
worked
first
with
started?
that's funny because he brought it up. He was like, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I've done that joke twice this week, and like that's a really good joke, you know." And I was young enough and brash enough as a comic at the time to not. It didn't occur to me to stop doing the joke.
Right. Yeah, I only have so many jokes.
Yeah,
I have to do all
this
of them.
is my best joke.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not going to not do that joke. Where in reality, as a host, I should have
taken that off the table so that he could.
do his thing. And
Yeah.
instead, I was just like, if he's not paying attention, that's on him. And I'm like, to Mitch Hedberg, I'm doing
Yeah.
how fucking arrogant and dumb
See,
I
I
was. You know?
started. That's why, growing up for me, listening to comics talk all the time. When I first started hosting, I would ask the headliners if there was anything they didn't want me to talk about. 'Cause I didn't want to step on any subjects.
That used to annoy the shit. Yeah, right. And I think that kind of stuff hurt me coming up because
Me too.
it annoyed me. Like, I remember I got a call from Kevin Nealon one time, or an email from his manager, and she said, "Oh, Kevin looked at your website and he sees his wife they just had a baby, so they want you to not do any kid material." And that was like 3 years after Owen had been born, and my whole act was about my son and how much blah blah blah, and they were like, "Don't do any of that." And I just remember just being like, "He's the fucking guy. He's the headliner from Saturday Night Live." Like,
Yeah, do
they already
funnier-
bumped me because I was supposed to headline that week, and then they bring him in. Obviously, he sells tickets. That's fine, you know. But now I can't. I lose the gig, and I can't do half my jokes. So I was determined to just kill with other jokes and make it hard, you know. And then
What'd you do? How did it go?
I did great, but he was the fucking nicest human being I've ever met. And so it instantly, my month of anger at him
And that's that.
went away in my first conversation with him.
Yeah.
You know?
There's I had that with a little bit with Orny Adams. With the thought when I was going to open for him the first time, I was like, oh man, I saw a comedian and he's just, I am not gonna like this dude. And I met him and he's like nicest guy. You know what I mean? Just like super fucking nice. And I had this thought in my head because of all these preconceived notions that he's going to be that person I saw on that documentary that was shot a specific way. And then every fucking person I've opened for the most part, has been very fucking cool. And I always had expectations that they wouldn't be, or they'd be a certain way, and they just fucking people on the road trying to get by and get through the weekend.
Almost all of the things that you project into the future are just
Wrong.
a waste of time in your head right then. It's just your own anxiety and whatever it is, and none of that plays out.
Sometimes, do you ever get people come up to you and the first thing they say to you, you can tell is in the middle of a conversation that they've been having with you before they walked up to you?
No.
Yeah.
You know?
I've never heard it worded that way, but I think of that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like if I know I'm going to open for Tom Simmons and I've never met Tom Simmons, all week I'm having this dialogue like you had with Kevin Nealon for a month before you met him, you know? And then they walk up and they say something. I'm like, that's not the first sentence of this interaction. That's the fifth sentence of a different interaction that I wasn't a part of. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It happens. I notice it all the time, man. Like people think about you before you.
Yeah,
they're
people are
with
having
you.
a pre-conversation with you.
Yeah,
they're trying to figure it out, and then you might end up, because like we're in a circle outside, we're in different circles, and then I might turn around.
Yeah.
And you might say something that you were saying to me, 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's kind of someone be like, who do you think you are?
Yeah, it's like it's just assumptions and your thoughts getting away from you. You know what I mean?
Mumbled and jumbled up.
Do you ever had to go the other way, where you were really excited to meet somebody?
For sure. I'm positive I have. I know, like John Witherspoon, I thought we were friends before we even met. You know what I mean? Because I had known him my whole life. Like, I was a Eddie Murphy fan, and so in Boomerang, got to coordinate. I was like, this fucking guy, it's my dude. You know what I mean? And then he's Pops, and he's the father in Friday, and all these things. I had a relationship with him, and we had never met. And so I walked up, and I was like, "What's up, Pops? It's good to meet you." He was like, "How are you?" You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't as comfortable with me as I was with him. And, turns out he's just a fucking lovely, lovely human being. But for sure, that's happened to me a bunch of times. It's almost every comedian that I've met, I've had a relationship with them
beforehand,
before they ever knew I existed. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. But they've all everybody's been cool.
That's the thing. I think some comedians are a lot of comedians are celebrities, but they're not big celebrities. So they don't realize. So they live the majority of their life as a regular human being, and then all of a sudden, a fan is near them. And it's a fan that knows he's seen every podcast, he's seen every special, he's seen every set on Comedy Central.
Yeah, it freaks me out sometimes when I meet somebody that knows my comedy, and I'm like, what?
Yeah. It's gotta happen to you because you got your stuff pirated, right?
Huh?
You got your comedy pirated by TikTok? On TikTok?
Yeah.
Do I?
Yeah, no, you have some. Yeah. No, you literally sent me some stuff. What
does pirated mean? Oh, there was a girl that did one of my.
Yeah, she took your audio.
Sound?
Yeah, she took a sound. She used his voice as a sound. They started doing they did a cartoon over it or something.
Isn't that what you want?
The cartoon that the label 800-Pound Gorilla made.
Yeah.
And then that was like their promo thing, and then somebody put it up on their page, and it did great.
Yeah.
It got
Wow.
And I tried to put it up on my page, and it
wouldn't
muted
let
it. It was like, you can't use this as pirated material. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I can't use my own shit? Like, my idea was to go through my album, and because nobody was doing that, I thought it'd be funny just to do it myself and just to lip sync my own material. Nobody knows who the fuck I am. I'm just a guy lip syncing my own material.
You should do that.
That would have been great. That would have been great.
How come you don't do it, man?
Because I can't figure out how to do it.
Dude, you know what's funny?
I can't figure out how to get my material downloaded on there without them saying it's pirated and
that's so funny, dude.
They asked me this in the writer's room, and I never really thought it. They were talking about Owen, and they were asking me if I see Owen as my legacy. Do you see your children as your legacy?
I don't. I see them. I guess my legacy is like, ideally, my legacy, as it stands right now, not much of one. But if you were asking me what I hoped it would be, I hope that and when I'm gone, there are a bunch of funny comedians who say I was funny. I would really dig that.
Right. So
But my kids, I think that legacy will be unseen.
is that a common theme though, that people think of their children as their legacy?
Yes.
I think so for sure.
It is?
Yes,
Because
it's
they think of
definitely-
them.
yes,
They
it's
think of
definitely
I've
them.
never
It's an
thought that
extension
ever.
of themselves.
Yeah, they think of their children
Yeah.
as an extension of their life.
Like
and-
this is me living on.
Yeah, I
in
think
a
so.
way.
I would think that the life that I'm able to provide and the way that I'm raising my kids will be a part of my legacy.
Yeah.
But they don't really. I mean, because I want them to have their own legacy.
Yeah, you will never.
Yeah, that's what I think. I'm like, he's not my. I have 5 comedy albums available on iTunes. That's my legacy. That's my like.
Link in the description.
Yes, I've actually sadly put in more work in my comedy than I did into my parenting. You know what I'm saying? So, which is my leg. But I've never thought of him that way. I've never thought of like this is an extension of me or my reflection of who I am later and gets to live on. It's weird. I never. Maybe I should have, but I've never thought.
I don't know.
that way.
I don't know if that's a good thing. I think when I think about my kids, what I hope is that they are such good people and enjoy their life so much that I almost never come up. And
Like a good umpire.
yeah, like a good umpire. If you're talking about them, then they did the wrong thing.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna say it's a bad thing. I think it could be a good thing because if they're your legacy, then at least hopefully you give a fuck about it. You know what I'm saying? So if your kids are your legacy, then at least you give a fuck about them. You know what I mean?
Well, I do. I give a fuck about you.
I mean, I'm just, I'm not saying if they're not. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying at least that gives me at least a positive connotation. Like, okay, you care enough about your children to take care of them because you know that after you, this is what's left of you.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're right. Because I hadn't thought of it that way. I haven't thought of like he's continuing my line. I don't really think of it that way. I guess that's
old
truth.
thinking.
Yeah.
But I just think of it like, oh, he's his own dude. You know
What do
I
you
mean?
What do you hope your legacy is?
I don't think that those matter. I think because everybody I know and has ever seen me or blah blah blah, when I'm gone, the longest my legacy will last or whatever that is what their lifetime is. Like it's meaningless. Like even the most famous people, like we barely know them and we don't know that. You know, there's no.
I mean,
I don't think there is. I think
right,
it's just a
like,
meaningless life.
We don't know Aristotle. Well, I mean, we don't know Socrates. We don't know
but
them.
those guys have a legacy. I'm not
Yeah.
Aristotle or Socrates.
You're not today.
Yeah.
But somebody might find those,
Yeah.
those voice
You might
files
find a
in
new planet.
1,000
Those
years.
albums are pretty good. Go back.
All the
And they might
everything
say,
everybody
yeah.
says about Aristotle is that he was the Tom Simmons of his day.
I do. That is part of why the show is the dumbest guy in the room, because it's him or it's Socrates that is the only real wisdom is knowing you don't know. I love that, and that's sort of how I want to live my life and my ideas like about everything is like I don't know, and that's
Fastest way to find it out.
That's your legacy. Your legacy is you just need to let people know that whatever you think you know, you don't know.
you don't know
You need to put that.
shit.
You need to tagline. Somebody needs to tagline that at the bottom. I need 10% too.
Yeah, tune in
Whatever you
next
think
week
you know,
where
you
will
don't
also
know.
Not know shit. So your job is to feel like you're my legacy, and that should inspire you to do better.
Yeah, constantly walk around with that pressure.
All right, that's it. Thanks, guys.
I think everyone should say I'm the dumbest guy in the room.
That's dumb.
Hey,
I'm the dumbest guy in the room.
I'm Eric Trundy. I'm the dumbest guy in the room.
I'm Eric Brown. I'm the dumbest guy in the room.
I'm Owen Simmons, and I'm the dumbest guy in the room.
I'm Eric Trundy, and Tom Simmons is the dumbest guy in the room.
This is true. That's why the show actually has my name under it. There's proof that I am the dumbest guy in the room. Thank you for watching. I know there's not a lot of you, right? Because there's
How
only
do you
one.
know that?
Don't undersell
Because I'm
yourself.
not. It's not underselling. There's one person at a time watching this.
That's fair.
Nobody is gathered around with their family.
not a
People might
party
start
line.
Googling
Watching
Tom
podcasts. That's
Simmons
right.
when they see
There's
your
one
name, when they
person
see your
watching
name.
this on his phone, maybe, and
I Google
I
people.
admire and love you for doing it. So thank you for tuning in. Do it next time.